Hello, and welcome to Twin Peaking, where I show my friend Jay Kirsten Twin Peaks in order of my least favorite to favorite episodes, and we see if she can figure out what Twin Peaks is about. If you find yourself enjoying the show, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And that includes to Jay Kirsten at twitch.tv/JKIRSTYN. That'll also be in the description below. Without further ado, let's get started. Awesome.
Whoa.
Cool. Oh, is this where I want the camera? See where I'm at? I'm very small in the frame. It's very high up. Well, that's a. Oh, I zoomed in on myself. I physically camera zoomed in on myself. This will be a fun intro. Alrighty.
Oh my god.
I guess this is what I'll do. No, I don't like that either. Okay, you know what? Fuck it, I'm gonna leave it. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I am good. How are you?
Doing all right. Yeah. How's your camera today?
My camera looks good. It looks quite decent, I think.
Okay. I'm not satisfied with mine, but I don't know what to do about it, so I'm gonna leave it be.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, so we're just off the back of watching the missing pieces, and we're gonna get back to the regular show.
Yes.
Didn't check in last time. How are you feeling about that?
I am ready to watch this show in a new light. I think the movie has opened my eyes as to what the show is about, so I'm excited. I'm super excited.
Okay. Any pressing thoughts? Anything you want to get into as an intro before we start, or should I just hit the fucking button? I'm in a sweary mood today, huh?
Yeah, you are. I think the only thought is that I'm going to pay closer attention to this White Lodge shit, because I haven't. Quite frankly, I haven't been paying attention to this, so You've been consistently writing it off. Yes, I have been. So we'll see.
Okay. That's funny in context of what I remember this episode being. So, but that's all I'll say about that.
Okay.
In that case, why don't we go ahead and get started?
Okay.
Yeah.
A different ending. Okay.
Yeah. And you know, don't know if it's appropriate or not, especially going into part 2 of season 2, right? To change the ending, but this is like a really good emotional theme with like it is the Laura Palmer theme with different instrumentation.
Yeah.
But it's just a nice little, like, I like it.
Yeah.
so like as a different ending, it's a good one.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So that was season 2, episode 11, Masked Ball.
Masked Ball?
Yes.
Okay.
Which was the name of it this time. So, as always, the first question there. What do you make of that title?
Masked Ball. Well, there was a dancing at the wedding, but it's not really a ball. I don't know if that's in regards to. Clearly the masked part I think is in regards to Josie and Catherine, like that storyline. Like the dance that they're doing against each other kind of deal. That's kind of my first thought.
We also saw with Hank and Ben.
True.
A little bit of that kind of like interplay, counterplay, revealing of sides.
Yeah.
And that type of thing as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we also see Dale dancing with like the internal affairs agents, playing that dance, and him not wanting to take part. And as well as like Denise showing up and revealing her new identity. I think that out of the titles that are given, this one's pretty good when you think about it, because it has layers of like actual legitimate metaphor, but then there's also the direct, and they were dancing at the wedding, you know?
Yeah.
it kind of has both. But anything else about that title that sticks out to you, stands out? No?
That's pretty much it, yeah.
So what'd you think of the episode?
It was good. A lot of revelations.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into, I guess, when we go through the scene by scene.
Okay, cool. I was wondering if you were going to be like, here's the big ones that I want to talk about, or if you were going to go scene by scene on it first. All right. In that case, since we do have a hard deadline, let's start getting through that.
Okay. First scene is James on the motorcycle, which we could probably skip through because it was just credits. Google AI likes to make up things sometimes. Is that James?
Yeah. Some people are saying it does look like a wren, though, so...
Man, my man James.
But it's not a Buick's wren. Okay, I'm going to focus on James driving. With the classic rock guitar going. It's an aesthetic. This shot, driving down the road, is such a sense memory for me of like what growing up in Idaho. I know it's not in Idaho. I've seen this exact road. I've been down this exact road.
On his name.
I will say, because again, I don't know how much is making it from into the episode from DMCA or whatever. But it is very reminiscent of where I grew up in Idaho. That shot. Like every time I see that shot driving through, I'm like, I swear I've lived this experience. I don't drive a motorcycle. Oh my God, you see that? How much I'm not involved in motorcycles. I said drive a motorcycle. But like, I swear I've lived that experience driving through that exact road. Like it's such an intense sense memory for me.
Yeah. Okay, and the next scene is at the sheriff's office with Coop, Harry, and Betty.
I don't want to alarm you, but Garland has disappeared before. Granted, it's always been work-related. Agent Cooper, did this seem work-related?
Ma'am, that's hard to say.
So, Betty, you're saying this behavior is part of the way the Major operates?
Let me ask you this. Did he leave suddenly?
Oh, this is after.
We were speaking philosophically.
Yeah, he just disappeared in night.
Answer the call of nature. When I returned, he was gone.
Poor Betty. Talking about how the general left. I can't remember if this is in the timeline or not. I have to go back into my notes. But this episode is right after the general disappears, right?
Yes. The cliffhanger that it left on last was Cooper needing to go. He and
right.
The Major disappearing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Understandable that Betty is upset, but it's interesting that she knows
She's not
more.
that upset.
She seems kind of like I don't know what the word is. Like kind
this
of
happens.
Shell shocked. Yeah. Like shell shocked. I would say maybe she's in shock or something. That's kind of what I got from her because it seemed like I was about to say it's interesting that she knows more information that she's letting on because she goes, it's classified like multiple times in that conversation. And so I think that is interesting. I don't know what information she knows, but she seems from the conversation a little bit shocked that like whatever happened to him actually happened kind of deal. Like that's the vibe that I get that she knows what is going on. She has a little bit more information that she's letting on, but she's shocked at the fact that it actually did happen. Whatever happened to the general actually did happen to him. So that was the vibe that I got.
That's really interesting because like I'm putting myself into a perspective of my first time watching it. My assumption, and I'm not going to say whether this was correct or not, was that she was aware of what's kind of happening to him, knows it's dangerous, but is also like, this is just part of its job and is like kind of okay with, like, she's like, nothing to panic about, but, might also be bad, you know, it was how I read that scene. Yeah. So it's really, but I like your interpretation, and I think it actually does fit better with the events that happen later and are laid out here. Like that makes more that's why I was like so confused the first time I saw it, of like her being worried, or like alone in the room worried about him, and Bobby having that scene with her and then him coming back. I was like, why is she so worried if she knows this happens, you know? Your interpretation I like a lot better. And
I think that's why I have that interpretation, because in that scene, she is super upset, right? Like it takes Bobby comforting her, and like watching how much of a dick Bobby was in the first, that season 1 episode, and then the movie that we watched, quote unquote movie, is interesting. Like that he had that reaction for his mom, you know? And so I think that's why I have that interpretation of her in that scene.
Bobby, who's not in this episode.
Yeah, true. He is not in this episode.
I didn't really think of that until we were just talking about him. And I was like, there's a distinct lack of Bobby.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
The next scene is Andy and Hawk coming in, talking about the matching skirt and ascot.
Sheriff, we found Mr. and Miss Milford's wedding present. It's a matching scarf and ascot.
Wow.
Good. I still owe him a gift from last time.
Can't believe that he's getting married again. Dougie's weddings are a season.
Also, remember that's what he.
Marion Haste.
Yes. That's what Andy wore, kind of, for the fashion show.
Oh yeah, for the fashion show.
I hope I didn't cut it off.
Temp. Lucy's helping out with the Milford wedding.
Coop, where are we? This is Gordon Cole calling from Bend, Oregon.
How you doing, Gordon?
Coop, I just called to say that you have my full support in this investigation business. These are hard times, but we get through them.
Thank you, Gordon.
It ranks poor with me, too. Now, Coop, is any of this true? Double homicide? Stolen drugs? Storming a whorehouse?
It's all a bunch of hogwash.
And I have to tell you, the Drug Enforcement Agency's starting to nose around. They're sending down a top dog to investigate the drug angle.
Who are they sending?
It's Gordon. It's Gordon Cole.
Who's the agent?
Oh, Dennis Bryson.
He's a good man, Harry. No nonsense.
Don't let him rattle you, Coop.
God, I love Gordon Cole so much.
We've all had our socks tossed around from time to time. Couple of words of advice. Let a smile be your umbrella.
Thanks, Gordon.
If you didn't watch the movie, that would have been your first interaction with Gordon Cole, huh?
That's true. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's really interesting to think about. I thought it was a tie. I thought it was a tie in that color.
It was an ascot. It was an ascot.
Okay. Like that makes more sense. I was like, that's such an ugly tie. Why would you do that?
I thought that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
And then next is the call from Gordon, talking about how Agent Dennis is going to come interview Cooper for the drug investigation. And then it immediately goes into the next scene of Cooper being in the room with Roger and the other agents.
Right.
There's a right way and a wrong way to do this. And the first thing we expect is a bureau man to stand up for himself. Now, a man who can't, who doesn't even try, well, he may be packing feathers where his spine is supposed to be.
That's supposed to mean.
Roger.
It means that if he's not even going to play the game, he may be a coward trying to just get off of being fired from the FBI.
I see.
I've been doing a lot of thinking.
That was a very weird saying.
And I've started to focus.
Yeah, but there's a lot of those in the show.
The sound immediately makes its blood. The sensations of animals. What we fear
Correct. That is the correct response. Thank you, somebody, anybody.
I'm talking about.
And altogether, you pointed out in the episode that it's interesting that would have been my first interaction with Gordon if I did not watch the missing pieces beforehand. And that's funny to me. That's very funny that I wouldn't know his character. The whole thing is funny of him yelling into the phone.
Yeah, that's such a good bit. Like, some people don't like it. They're like, tone down the yelling a bit or whatever. I don't think so. I think it's pitch perfect. I think that's so funny. And I'm glad you've come around on it, because your first reaction, Gordon, was like, why does he take out his headphones and stop yelling? So I'm glad you've come around to being like, no, this is actually very good.
Well, if it was headphones, then I would have been mad. But because it's like a hearing aid, it's like, oh, this is supposed to be comedy. It's comedy that his hearing aid is messing up with him. So I thought that was funny. Yeah. Roger as the investigator, I also thought was really good. It's kind of like, he is like the audience character. And what I mean by that is recently on, I can't remember, there's a video that I saw of a YouTuber who basically was like, I like episodes where it takes, like, it's like one-off episode, and it takes the point of view of like a side character, and then it's like the side character reacting to what the main characters have to go through every episode. And so the main character's like running around in the background. Meanwhile, the side characters is like, what am I going to have for lunch today? Kind of deal. And has to react to the main characters. And so when Roger says, what the hell are you talking about? Is like, if you were an outsider walking into this situation and you hear a federal agent go like, yeah, the White Lodge, and like, it's blah, 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 blah.
I'm playing outside the board. And he's like, what do you mean? And he's like, it's the wind between the trees. And, you know, like, of course you're like, what are you, like, what are you talking about? Like, no wonder he was like, you've been through a lot of stress. Maybe you need a psych eval.
And so I really liked that scene. Like, that was like a small kind of snippet of that kind of scene that I liked. You've seen all
of the episodes that Roger's in at this point. And I think that's a shame. Oh, I didn't think that was a revelation. We heard him leave in one of the early episodes of when we started this.
Oh,
like episode 13 or 14, something like that.
Okay, that's been a while, yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, I think that's a shame. I get that he's like a bigger actor and was kind of one of those, like, hey, look who we got, kind of, right? Like a guest star, you know?
Okay.
But like, I think it's a shame. I think he adds like a good grounded point of view, because like the people in Twin Peaks are weird, and I think that like it works in the initial series of like, oh, they are all kind of weird, but everyone's playing along with it. But if you're going to shake up the formula, bring in a character who recognizes how weird everyone is in this town.
Like, this is
would be a great play to do in this in this like new version of Twin Peaks, right? If you're going to shake things up, because all the showrunners are leaving, that is the angle you go after. Is bring in the new character who's normal and is like, what the hell is with this
What
town?
are we talking about? What is going on? And so I appreciated that. I liked that.
I also like where he stands, because like so often IA agents either they're in the way of like the people doing the real job, and that's not a good message to have, right? Of like, you know, oh, the IA is always going to be villains and they're preventing us from breaking the law for good, you know, like this guy's like, you know, Cooper's like, here's where I messed up, here's where I think I was fine, and they're not, he's an antagonist, but he's not like in the way. He's like, we're doing our due diligence. I really like that kind of presentation.
Yeah, me too. Okay.
And then we're into Nadine.
Yes, I was about to say the next scene is Nadine talking with Donna about Mike, and
Donna's so fucking boring. So, you know,
Yeah. Oh my God,
God.
Nadine.
Both of us have the same
Nadine,
reaction
what are
at
you
the
gonna
same
do
time.
now? What are you gonna do?
Donna, hi.
Hi, Nadine. Have you heard anything from James?
You mean Eddie's friend with the motorcycle?
Yeah.
Well, he hasn't been around for a couple days. Listen, I gotta ask you something, and I hope you don't think this is too personal.
What?
Well, are you still, like, going out with Mike or...
Mike?
Mhm.
Oh my God.
Well, you have to promise not to say anything. Promise, okay?
Sure.
Well, I think there may be some new church and straight developing in the big oh my God.
Hey, Donna.
Hi, Mike.
Especially knowing where that goes.
That's the cutest buns.
I'm
my
sorry. I
gosh.
don't mean. Sorry. I shouldn't color your opinions on things. How do you feel about this scene?
I like Nadine. Like
Yes.
I've since day one, I think Nadine has been a consistent top character for me. And this has solidified that even more so than previous episodes
Yeah.
that we've watched. So I like that. Mike is great. You're right. I think Mike is
Perfect
the
comedic
actor for Mike
partner to
is
her.
good for comedian. Yeah, exactly. I think it's a good pairing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I kind of get the vibe that Donna, like the actor, was going for with Donna being like, this is weird. What about Ed? But the presentation of her is like, it comes off a little bit more, not out of concern for Nadine and Mike, but more so like, I don't know what the word is. She's just not, like, she's not assertive in her concern, basically. It's kind of, it comes off like lightheaded and airy versus being like more so like you have yeah, I don't know how else to describe it. Do you think
I feel
I'm
like
making
you can
sense?
see
Like,
her acting.
Yeah.
And that's my problem with her consistently is she's like, this is what actresses do. Like,
Yeah.
like I haven't seen anything else she's in. Maybe she's great. Maybe it's the direction. But like consistently, I'm always like, oh, like Laura Flynn Boyle is just thinking this is what acting is while everyone else is
okay.
acting. Do you know what I mean?
I see. Yeah.
But I don't want to color your opinion. It's like if
No,
you liked
that's
her, but I
fair.
don't think you like her either, as far as I'm aware.
I don't.
So, like, you know,
Like,
some people do, and that's fine.
I'm trying to put myself in the space of like an actor's head of like, why are they acting this way? And so that's
Right.
why I started off with, I think this is what she was going for, but it does not come across in the like delivery of it, you know,
Right,
like
yeah.
and so that's why I'm giving her a bit more grace, but like
Sure.
it was just a weird,
I think
like
it's
it was a weird acted scene on her end. Like it was like she was like I'm making faces on the camera. You can't see it, but like she's like it's weird. It's weird, you know. Like I didn't like.
well, she's
that
so
delivery,
stony faced, and then will be like, "Oh, I should probably laugh or smile at this," and you can see that thought
Yeah.
process.
Yeah,
but like,
yeah.
you know, and I think part of why I'm going in harder on her right now is one, this is only a scene she's in, thank God, but two, like we just got off the back of watching Moira Kelly play Donna, who I think like. You didn't get to see the full plot line of that or whatever. And I know that they play him completely different. And that's because one is pre Laura Palmer's death and one's post Laura Palmer's death. Fine.
Right.
I get that interpretation.
Sure.
Moira Kelly is so much better as Donna. And coming right off the back of that and then getting this scene with her, I'm just like, oh, yeah. You know, and like that, I feel bad feeling or thinking that way, but then like, plus like, I hate her storylines of like, you know, I think part of why it what it's going for and stuff is also like, oh, I don't actually care about this. I'm talking with you because you have a connection to James. And
okay.
Have you heard from James? And she's like,
right.
Oh, Eddie's friend, and moves on. And then like the rest is like, oh, I'm trapped in this conversation because I had that. I asked the question.
Right.
I think that's where it was going for.
Fair.
Whatever.
Yeah,
Nadine's great. Mike is so funny as he just walks by. He's like,
Mike
"Hey, Donna," and then it's just
funny. Yeah. So, yeah, it was. Yeah, I think Nadine carries that scene by far.
Yes,
she's great.
absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Next is Wally's. I thought James was a season 2 exclusive character, and so knowing that he's in season 1 is like changing for me.
Yeah, we're also seeing where. Have we seen? Did you see the outside of this bar before? Hideout Wally's.
Oh no, I've never. Okay, so that's the outside of the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, it's Evelyn. Yeah, I've never seen the outside of Wally's before. I've only ever seen the inside of Wally's, so that's good to visualize in my head what Wally's is.
It's so funny that the title of the bar is Hideout Wally's, not Wally's Hideout.
Oh.
Because it's Hideout Wally's. Like, I'm doing it with my hands so you didn't see it, but on top is Hideout and on bottom is Wally's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, this is the first time that we meet Evelyn, I guess, in the episode.
Well, that's what I was going to ask is, do you think this is like her first scene, period?
I do think that this is her first scene. Yeah, I do think that is how they've met.
Yes.
I already felt uncomfortable with Evelyn and James, like that whole relationship storyline. But this makes it even more uncomfortable because it plays into the stereotype of like cougar woman hunting out young men at the bar. You know, like,
and it feels
it
so much more predatory.
Yeah, it does feel more predatory.
She even brings up like, what are you running from? As like, I have a place to shelter you, right? Like, it's like, it's gross.
Yeah, it feels more icky. Like, it'd be different if like
they actually hit it off or something and be interesting.
Exactly. Yeah, like if they actually had chemistry. but
okay, hear me out on this as a pitch of them meeting instead, right? This isn't what I want to talk about, but like he's talking about later. He talks about like dangerous motorcycle stuff that he does, right?
Okay.
Like punching off the lights in the middle of the night and rolling off the brakes and just rolling. Like, that's dangerous as shit. But like, that could feed into that line later and feeds into some other stuff that you don't know about. But if you know, you know. That think would work really well. Why don't they have an almost accident, not an actual accident, but almost crash into each other? Stop to talk, make sure that there's no damage. And then while they're talking and hitting stuff off, he's like able to express some of that car knowledge of like taking a look around and being like, oh, we should probably check this, and like show that he has knowledge about cars. And she's like, oh, well, I have a car that needs to be fixed back home, the Jaguar. Right. And they're talking that way. And then brings him back home and then pitches that. It would still end up being predatory, but it lays it in a lot softer of a way. It can show actual natural chemistry.
Yeah.
And that way the betrayal hits harder later, like.
Yeah. And James would be on more equal footing to Evelyn in that sense.
Yeah.
I think that would play out a bit better. Yeah. I like your fan fiction, Mac.
Thank
I like
you.
it a little bit better.
Yeah.
The whole
also
scene.
She'd just be like, do you know anything about cars just random? Like
yeah,
the
exactly.
Scene,
yeah, it's weird.
It's predatory, and then it shows that it's written just for this plot line to start to exist, right?
Yeah, that's
and,
fair.
And that's what all things are, but like all media like has this layer of we're gonna pretend like you don't see the writers. But if the writers like poke their hands beyond the curtain and say, hey, we're here, like that's immersion breaking.
Yeah, then it's bad. Yeah.
This is what that scene is,
That's fair. That's very
actually
fair.
not what I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
While we were talking about it, you brought up that like you were surprised that this was Evelyn's first thing, right? Or something to that effect. And I was going to ask like, oh yeah, well, what did you think it was going to be? Like, how did you think it was going to lead into that? Or how far back also did you think she was going to be before you knew it was this episode? But then we realized that's for this part of the conversation.
Fair. Yeah, that's fair. I'm not sure where I expected Evelyn to be honest, but it wasn't this scene. Like, this scene felt forced. And like the scene had to happen in order for the other things to happen later on in the season, right? Like that's what the scene felt like to me. If I were to write in Evelyn, if I were to pick where I would want her to show up, it would be like, maybe it's like, here's my fan fiction. Okay, here's my fan fiction now. Is that, you know, she is driving down the road and maybe Mike is driving on the road and then Mike gets distracted by Nadine or something.
James.
No, it's Mike. In my fan fiction is Mike. In my fanfic, it's Mike.
Okay, I'm here. Sorry. Yes, when you said that, my bad. I didn't mean to correct you. I'm on board. Let's. Okay. You know what? Let's see.
It is Evelyn. Evelyn is driving down the road. Evelyn is driving down the road, and driving on the opposite direction is Mike, and then. Let's say, like, Mike is driving down the road, but then he notices something in the passenger seat. And it's like a bouquet of flowers. And it's from Nadine. And he's like, what the frick? How did these flowers get here? Like, that's weird. And then he drifts into the opposite direction lane. And then friggin' Evelyn is driving down the other thing. And then it swerves and she swerves. And then she goes into the ditch. And Mike is like, oh shit, I don't want to be... And knowing Mike's character, Mike is like, I don't want anything to do with that bullshit. Like, it's not my fault. And then he drives off with the bouquet of flowers from Nadine. And then Evelyn is stuck on the side of the road with her car. Like, you know, just a little bit more backstory. So we see who Evelyn is before that scene. Like, she just needs, I think, one more additional scene before that. And so that is my fan fiction, is that somehow Mike causes it, and it's like a funny little thing with Nadine, because I really like Nadine and she deserves more screen time. And that's how I would do it. That's how I would do it. Or something along those lines.
Okay, hear me out. Rule of threes.
Okay.
Let's go. Okay, so we have a scene kind of like that, and she goes off, but then she's like, oh, that was scary. So she goes to the bar. And that way we can establish the bar that we see there, right?
Okay.
But she's just there. She talks to the bartender about what happened. She leaves, almost gets into the accident. Like, separate scenes, right? Like, your scene goes to the bar separate later in the episode. Talks to the bartender about what happens, leaves. And then has the almost accident with James. That's the second time this has happened. They establish, they go. And then when they go to check out the Jaguar, the rule of threes, the comedy bit is that, like, yeah, I swerved off the road like the third time, so we've seen it happen 3 separate times. And that's why she has to fix this new car.
Okay. I like it. There you go. I like we combined our 2 fan fictions. Yes. There you go.
Yeah.
It's great.
And I love yours because it's like, it does give Mike another comedic scene that is involving Nadine, but doesn't have Nadine there. He's like, what the hell is this? And it really drives home that it's such a wild thing that's happening. Like, that's so good as a concept.
So yeah, there's how I think that Evelyn would play out if I were to rewrite season 2.
That wasn't the question, but that's a better answer than what the question was.
You.
So we'll move on.
Okay. The next scene is Dick, Andy, and little Nikki.
Oh God, that's right. Doogie's getting married again.
Doogie?
Not here? Does this mean we can't go out for Malted?
Yes, unfortunately. We'll have to go some other time.
Because he's an accessory, not a kid.
You know, Dick, it's close to my lunch hour. If you'd like, Nikki, I'd sure enjoy taking you 2 guys out for a malted. How would that be?
Oh boy.
See, I wanted more of this.
So what do you do if you figure a way to get it?
Not much to say on it other than I like
good.
that
It's funny.
Andy it's funny, but I also like the fact that Andy left flowers for Lucy. I thought that was very sweet. That was very cute. I was like,
it really does highlight the good side of Andy of being like, he sees that the kid's disappointed that they can't go and get them all, and he's like, well, it's my lunchtime. I could replace Lucy, right?
Yeah.
And Dick just like, I love the interplay between them of like Dick being like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah.
right? Like, I love their interplay, and I like that it starts here and then we see them like could have become friends, you know? But then it doesn't continue with that pathway, and I think that's a disappointment because I love their interplay.
Fair.
It's a good scene.
It is a good scene. I like the scene a lot.
It's the right amount of little bit of comedy there, and then you move on. Yeah.
Yes. The next scene is Coop and Harry and Hawk talking about the White Lodge and the Black Lodge.
Have either of you fellas heard of a place called the White Lodge?
Ugh.
You said you were gonna like it more.
I know, but
Cooper, you may be fearless in this world, but there are other worlds.
Yes.
And Hawk explaining how, you know, his people, every spirit must pass through the Black Lodge. I'm paraphrasing a lot here,
right?
But basically, the revelation I get is that there's a White Lodge and there's a Black Lodge, and I thought that was interesting.
And you have to pass through with perfect courage of the Black Lodge,
perfect courage,
and meet the dweller on the threshold, who is your shadow self.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is interesting. Shadow self. And then Denise walks in.
It's a long story, but actually I prefer Denise if you don't mind.
Okay. Oh, it is actually Denise. Okay.
Yes.
I did not connect that two together.
It's hard to imagine you have even time. I picture you chasing lost dogs.
Yeah, I was like, oh, a new character, Agent Dennis.
Oh. Okay, that's what you meant. Yeah. That's very good. That's very funny.
Good for her. I'm so proud of her.
Denise, I believe I'm being set up.
Yep.
And Cooper immediately is like, yeah, you're Denise. Oh, I love that. Okay.
Yeah. Something I do like about this. I guess I'll talk about it when we get to the scene.
Okay.
But
I'll put a star next to it too.
Yeah.
Food up there.
Denise, you're in for a real surprise. So are they.
But we'll catch up later. I want to tell you all.
Okay, Harry.
Life. Anxious to hear about it. It's a pleasure to meet you, Sheriff.
I'd watch that. I'd watch them. Like, I think that's a better pairing than Josie. Because he needs a woman like. Okay, Hawk.
Come on, Hawk.
That's actually part of what I weirdly like about the scene. But I'll talk about that later.
Okay.
I do think Harry needs somebody like Denise. like take charge, like this is what we're doing.
And we wanted to talk about that. I have an asterisk next to it.
Yes. So I want your opinions first before I lay out mine to, I don't want to paint your opinions.
Okay. So I actually really, I like the scene because I think Coop carries that scene for me. And we mentioned this before in a previous episode where the trans, representation, this is like the 90s, 80s, right? And so I wasn't expecting a lot, but I was happily surprised that, she walks in and, Coop sees her and goes, whoa. And then all of a sudden it's immediate acceptance on Cooper's end. Like he immediately goes, okay, Denise. And it continually, this is what I do when I have a friend who comes out to me as, whether that's non-binary or trans. And what I do to make sure I don't dead name them is I immediately, instead of using pronouns, I use their name in place so I get used to it. And I feel like that's what Cooper was doing. Cooper was saying, all right, Denise, Denise. Like he was repeating it as if he was training himself to to call her Denise, because I do that. I do that myself whenever that a friend comes out to me that way. And so I like immediately I was like, okay, I know what Cooper's doing. I can appreciate him. Like, what an ally king. Like,
Absolutely.
I love him.
and there's a scene a little bit later, and we can talk about it now because that ties into that. Is like he gets like really absorbed. He's like panicking because of like the stuff that's going on and the cocaine. And defaults to Dennis. In that scene, and she goes, Denise, and he's like, right, sorry, and she goes, that's fine, and that's really all it should and needs to be, especially since he is trying. And I like that they show that part too, as like, hey, they're not going to get it perfect, but if they're trying, you know, like that's what this conversation is, and he never does that again in the rest of the show. It's always Denise and gets it right. It's always Denise. So that it's nice to show that, like, hey, there may be growing pains with that, especially if someone's rattled in their brain about something and defaults to, but like, you know, he corrects it, and she's like, yeah, like it's this, but we're good. I understand. Like, you know, it's all a very good interaction. And ties into what you were talking about just now of like having to retrain yourself.
Yes.
To do that. Yeah.
So I like that scene. That scene. Unfortunately for me, Hawk -1 point because what he said at the end of that scene is like it plays into like the problematic of how trans people were viewed at the time frame, right? And so like
this is actually getting into what I like about the scene, which sounds counterintuitive. But like Harry's kind of more okay, shakes her hand, is okay with a little bit of the flirtatiousness, but still makes an underhanded comment of like, oh, you know, you're in for a surprise, and he's like, so are they, you know, or whatever. You're like, okay, come on, like, you know, but could still be played kind of whatever. Like it's not the worst. Especially since we see him later at the wedding and is kind of okay with Denise and is okay with it. And then we also see Hawk, who doesn't shake her hand and, you know, later does use the wrong pronouns. Even if they're trying to show like a level of acceptance, you know, it's still like not good. And I really like it because it goes to show, like, I think there's a version of this where everyone gets it right and gets it perfect immediately. And that's not accurate. Even our heroes and our good guys won't necessarily do that. It shows that
flaws.
They're so flawed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And shows that, like, hey, they still have stuff to grow on. So like, A, it shows that they're flawed, but B, also shows like even the good guys will have these blind spots that need to be addressed and need to, you know, and we see a sliding scale of that, of Cooper just being like, all right, yeah, I got it. We'll work on it. Like you said, perfect ally king. And then we have Harry, who's like, all right, says a couple problematic jokes, but like is largely trying to, is like, okay, on board, you know, and we'll probably grow that way. And then you have Hawk, who's like, I don't know about any of this. And I like that it shows that. And because
the range
we have,
of human emotion.
Exactly. And because we have Cooper as the primary person of who, like, it very much frames it as Cooper's the one handling this correctly.
Right.
It very much frames it that way, and then has other two who handle it worse than that. And because of that framing, I think it's good to have that in there to show, like, hey, people are going to react this way, and that's not okay either, you know? Like, even if they're good people,
that's
like
fair.
good people can still act that way and then need to address that about themselves.
Yes,
so I like that, even though it's a bad thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. It's a good representation of the range of like reactions.
How
that
hollow would it feel
get.
if everyone was just like, okay, got it, and then
yeah,
got it right.
That's
like,
very
that feels
true.
like kind of hollow in a way.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe there's a place for that, you know, but like, I don't know. I don't have the trans experience, obviously, but like when I see some bi people, like stuff like that, representation, where it's like, okay, yeah, we got it, and then it's like, okay, you're bi now, and that's it. Like, I'm always like, well, that doesn't, like, you know, people were okay with that with me, but like, I've also gotten a lot of like gross things said, you know, about that kind of thing, and it's like, it feels fake if you don't have that range. So
yes, that's fair. That's fair. And so
some
I
people
like
want
that
the
scene.
fantasy. Like same reason that
Yeah.
we talked about we like propaganda shows sometimes because of the fantasy that cops are on our side. Like, you know, right? So some people
So
want that
true,
fantasy, and
bestie,
there's a
so
spot for
true.
that. There's a spot for that. So like, you know,
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly it. All right. The next scene is Mike and Nadine again.
Such a good scene.
It's
Not a
such
lot
a
to
good
talk
scene.
about, but it's so funny. Like you can't not mention, but like, what is there to say? But at the same time, it's so funny.
It's so funny. It's a good scene.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh man, the more times I watch this, the funnier this stuff gets.
Good for her. Oh my.
And I do think Mike's like the perfect comedic partner for her.
Everyone else in the gym is like, what the fuck?
Attaboy, Nelson. Come on, pump it. Pump it. What's your name, little lady?
Nadine Butler.
Well, Nadine, ever give me thoughts of going out with a wrestling team?
Man, he should have had a better career as like a comedic actor because he's so good at those scenes. Nadine is also, but she had a good career, so.
I love the contrast between Nadine lifting 600 pounds versus Mike's whatever.
And
I didn't even write
fast.
the number.
The pace is so fast. It's like,
and then the coach is like, "What's your name, little girl?" And she goes, "Nadine." And he goes, "Want to join the wrestling club?" And Mike has this look on his face like, "What?"
Yeah, yeah, and we see how that goes for him too. Like,
Yeah.
like we've seen that. Like, yeah, it's so funny.
It's good. It's just a good scene. It breaks it up nicely with the next scene, which is Josie and Harry having, I wrote, sexy times.
Just one scene where you're not necking on her immediately.
I was about to
That's
say.
all I ask. That's all I ask. Have a conversation. Let me see what their bond is.
Talk. Yeah. Like, I've never
You know,
actually
like I guess I get it. So some people just have that chemistry of like, oh, we can't keep ourselves off of each other, but like, it's so weird that there's only drama and sex for them.
Because I thought they were gonna get into it, but then they start talking. They actually start talking to each other.
But again, it's like drama manipulation talking, not like actual conversations between the two.
Right, exactly. That scene, I guess I'll get into my thoughts of this scene when I talk about the later scene with Catherine. So I'll save it.
Oh,
then,
okay. I had a quick thought about this, and I'll try to get past it quickly. But like, I read a lot of like webtoons and you know, light novels that are from like Korea and China and stuff, right? And especially in Chinese ones, there's a lot of stories of like, coming from an impoverished place where like there's still a lot of really you know, poor people and women are treated like second class and stuff like that. And like hard to wrap my brain around that stuff still happening in modern society as an American, right? As bad as things are here, I'm not trying to give us a pass and say, oh, China's worse or whatever, right? But I've always been like, is that still accurate, or is that just like one of those things you hear about? Because like in the same way, like in a lot of Korean stuff, you see stuff of like, oh yeah, there a bunch of the men are like really bad, and then you realize like, oh, there's like a whole scandal about like how like 60% of men were on this like group chat thing of like a really nasty thing. Yeah, and you're like, oh my god, it's worse than I thought.
Yeah,
like oh, that's real. like sometimes you don't realize like, especially as like American stuff, like that they'll present stuff like that, and you're like, well, this is dramatized for fiction, and we know that, right? Like not that this stuff can't happen, but like it's not like a pervasive, you know, whatever, right? And then you're like, oh no, it really is in other
like
cultures.
It's a real
and
thing.
It's like
yes.
it's a real thing.
Yeah.
And I need to stop looking at it that way. And so her bringing up like, yeah, you know, we grew up in this poor area where they sold the women and you know, whatever. I recently was reading this book from Meiko Kawakami.
Okay.
Called is it Breast and Egg or Egg and Breast? Whatever. Japanese author, but they talk about a Chinese person that they worked with who literally didn't have a name registered until they were a teenager, like didn't have a name. Which is insane to me. like I'm like, how does that happen? But like places are regional like that, and you know the book takes place in like 2009 or whatever, right? When they told that story. But then I'm like, oh, that lines up with the timeline of the time she would have grown up into with that kind of thing happening. And you're like, oh, like yeah, in the metropolitan areas, it's probably closer to what we associate with, but like there are entire areas out there where it's just like still like not connected to the wider world.
Yes,
like, that's so that's all I wanted to talk about. It's not related to the show totally, but like I think that it's good to highlight like that sounds like an absurd thing of like, oh, exoticism and you know, but like, you know, playing into stereotypes. No, like that's a legit. Like that,
yes. I have a personal anecdote about that because for those that don't know, my parents are from the Philippines, and there's a lot of that very rampant in the Philippines, unfortunately. And like it sucks that like when that issue is brought into Western media, it almost stereotypes, you know, foreign women into that kind of stereotype of like a foreign woman that needs to be saved. And it sucks. It sucks that is a thing that is very pervasive in Western media. It's better now, but definitely like in the 90s and early 2000s, it was very much like oh, there's a foreign woman here. Well, this is how she got into the country. Is she got it through a white man, you know? Right. And like that is a very like big kind of stereotype, but it is a thing that happens. And so like it's interesting that like it is an issue that needs to be highlighted, but it's the primal issue that for some reason Western media grabs onto because it's so absurd, right? It's so absurd that like we have to add drama, and the way to add drama is to think of the most absurd thing that you can think of. And so it kind of like it gets stereotyped that way, but like it's just interesting to me that is very like kind of the image that foreign people get in, especially Asian foreign people get in the early Western media.
I think that's also just a generalized thing of media, because something I've come into contact with myself is like sometimes I'll see like depictions in Western media of like, you know, certain types of abuse, certain types of whatever, and people are like, well, this isn't the way this actually happens, and it's like, well, no, I've seen that is so I've been in contact with people who lived that experience. I've, you know, have my own experiences with stuff like that, you know, and so it's like but people just don't think it happens because they haven't lived that. And this is my own version of that with other cultures that I'm exposing to people. But yeah, society, that's just a very human thing of assuming like, oh, people have lived lives similar to ours, and that's not always true.
Yes.
But also like talking about it in that way, like that's how we still have that kind of culture of like passport bros, you know, who go to Thailand or whatever. And you know, that's kind of how that developed, is because that exact stereotype, right? Which I only know about because I didn't know that's what it was. And so I was looking into travel, but because of the other stuff, I you know, they started being like, oh, you're into travel? Hey, check out this r/passport bros. And I'm like, oh, what's this? And I look and I'm like, oh, this is disgusting. This is vile stuff. And they're trying to make it as an excuse. Like, why is this a thing? Like, especially from the title, you're like, okay, this could go either way. But you know, there's like subreddits of like, you know, girls being chicks or whatever, or guys being dudes, whatever, and it's like fun, cool stuff that these people are doing or whatever. And you're like, okay, yeah, this is fun. And then, so I'm like, all right, yeah, let's see what this is about. And then it kept, and because I went to visit it once and be like, oh, this is gross and I hate this.
Yeah.
It keeps recommending stuff, even though I tried, until I muted it. And I'm like, this is so gross. I don't want to be associated with this type of thing. Just because I'm interested in going back to Japan or visiting Korea or Europe or wherever doesn't mean I want to be part of that culture.
Yeah. That's funny. Poor Mac.
Yeah,
the mute button does not work ever. It's
no,
so
it doesn't. It'll block it for like a couple of months, but like, I start looking into like, how do I get to schools in Germany? How do I do this? And like, what passport requirements do I need to get to wherever, right? And then immediately they're like, oh, you must be a fucking pervert who wants to take advantage of poor people in other countries. And it's like, no, what?
How did you make this logical jump algorithm? What the frick?
I mean, I understand. I'm a single white man in his 30s looking into passport stuff. I understand how they made that jump. I think it sucks.
That's funny. Oh my gosh.
Not relevant. Fun little derail, but we should probably get the train back on the tracks.
All right. Okay. The next scene is Norma and Roger. It starts with Norma and Roger and how Roger gets the pie.
Yeah.
Sorry it took so long, but our little shot had help today.
It's quite all right. We're looking forward to the spy. I've heard so much about it.
Won't be disappointed.
It says that Cooper did still recommend a good pie joint to him.
Yes.
Hey, sweetheart. Gonna get some coffee?
Fun thing, they were the two leads in like a huge TV show in the 80s leading up to this, which is the entire reason he's in that scene is like as an Easter egg to that.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
I'll catch you anything. I came across a 12
I love that joke.
Buck, standing by a deep water pool.
You catch anything? I hope not. Oh, catch anything. Because they're at the whorehouse.
And then I mentioned it during the episode, but I did notice that Leland Palmer's name was on the newspaper.
Yep.
And like, it didn't occur to, I only saw Leland Palmer. I didn't read the rest of that title.
Oh,
and I was like, that's weird. I was like, that's weird. That's Laura Palmer's dad. I was like, oh, okay. Like, I didn't connect that it was like a bad thing. I just saw his name and I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And then immediately it jumps to Hank. I wrote icky husband Hank.
Yeah. Correct.
And and that scene. I don't have much to say between like that whole dynamic between Norma, Hank, and the snitch. I'm gonna call him the snitch. I can't remember his name.
That's fine. Ernie,
and then,
but it doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, Ernie, right. And
this
then
is one of his last scenes you'll see, I think.
Okay.
He might be in one other.
The monster kid,
yes,
and Dick and Andy.
Oh, money is no object, little Nicholas.
Oh. He is a monster of a kid.
It's okay.
I mean, yeah, but everyone's died around him. I think it's okay.
Thank you. Pass me a napkin, Uncle Andy. Oh. Gosh darn it, anyway.
Sorry, Uncle Andy.
Think nothing of it, little Nicky. Uncle Andy went funny boom boom, didn't he?
That's the right amount of them.
It is beautiful.
Jeffrey loves
You're doing car work in that sweater? What are you doing?
And yeah, he is a monster of a kid. I can see, like, it's not a logical jump, but I can see how Andy and Dick got there. You know, like it's not logical, but I can see.
With when they go on their trip, Dick and the kid, and he's messing with the wheel of the car and it causes it to fall. That being the straw that breaks the camel's back of like, oh, this kid's the devil, right?
Yeah. I can see that.
But
And
also,
so, yeah.
like you can see like how they encourage that behavior, because like when it happens to the one person thinks it's funny.
Yes.
Like when Dick is the one who gets the whipped cream in his face, Andy's kind of chuckling about it when Andy falls. Dick says,
It's okay,
it's
little
fine.
Nicky."
Like it was
Yeah,
funny.
exactly.
You know, Andy went
Yeah.
funny little boom boom. So you see how the kid could be encouraged by that type of behavior, because it gets him attention, and then
He's
it's
just
positive
being
attention.
raised by terrible people around him. He's
Exactly.
got very bad role models around
Exactly.
him.
So
That's, I don't have much to say else on that.
yeah, I don't know if there's that this will make it, but there's a joke in there that I like. I brought it up during the scene, but I don't know if it'll make it. Of like where Norma asks Ernie of like, "Oh, did you catch anything?" Because she thinks they went hunting or whatever. And he's like, "I hope not." And then he's like, "Oh yeah, caught something. Yeah, a huge buck or whatever." Because he remembers they were supposed to be hunting, not going to a whorehouse and making coke deals.
Yeah.
I think that's a funny little joke. I love that joke. So
yeah, I didn't have anything to say about it. That's it.
Yep.
The next scene is immediately James and Evelyn, and I just wrote dot because we already talked about them.
Sometimes riding at night, I punch off the headlights and roll on the throttle and just rocket blind into the dark.
So
that line that he says about sometimes at night he rolls off the brakes, shuts off the lights, and rockets into the night is like an iconic line in the fandom.
Oh,
not for good reasons.
okay.
They make fun of him for it.
Okay, I see.
But it is a meme, and I felt like I should highlight that for you. It is very memed upon line that I think this line is directly what leads to a thing that happens later. And so if I remember to bring it up, months later, we'll talk about it.
Okay. And then finally, there's two other scenes that I want to really touch upon.
Yes.
This next scene is one of them. And that is Ben Horn and Hank Hank confronting Ben Horn about a bunch of stuff. This is before he went crazy, right?
Arguably, he's starting to.
Yeah.
But right now, he just seems like a very sad person.
Yes, he seems very sad.
This victorious wreaths. On top of which,
My trusted solicitor, the late Leland Palmer, turns out to be a homicidal lunatic.
Tough week, Ben.
What?
You're running out a lot. I forgot that this had so much, so many spoilers, so much in it.
If one could find the perfect arrangement of all objects in any particular space.
I did notice that Leland Palmer's name was on the magazine that Roger was reading at the diner, but I
wasn't going to point it out because I wanted to see if you would notice.
I did notice that, but I was like, what?
Well, we were at his funeral, right? So he was laid to rest. Yeah.
What we have to talk about now is One-Eyed Jax. Jax, yes, One-Eyed Jax.
Yeah, he's going crazy.
I mean, yeah, but like he's clearly.
You're out. And you're out.
I really like this scene.
It is a very good scene. There's a lot of revelations that has happened. For example, the Ben Horn being the one ordering the fire that Catherine was supposed to die in.
That Josie seems to have a hand in that she keeps referencing about Josie.
Yes. Also, I wrote down the sentence, Catherine won in the end. And that's because Catherine ultimately won the mill and the other thing. I can't remember. that
Ghostwood.
Ben Horn wanted. Yes, Ghostwood. That's right.
If you remember back to Missing Pieces when they had the scene around the table dinner talking about like, here's how you introduce yourself in what language was it? Whatever, it doesn't matter. And they start singing along to it because of the Norwegians. I guess it's Norwegian then. We're coming next week or whatever. That I think he mentions that they were coming for the Ghostwood project.
Oh, okay.
So it's yeah.
I see.
That's such a loose connection I wouldn't expect you to pick up. It is a slight through line that I'm sure you'll eventually start grasping onto as we get.
I'll probably grasp
back to
onto it when we watch more of season 1.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, fair enough. And then the big revelation of Leland Palmer is a murderer is the big revelation.
Yeah, what do you make of that?
Is crazy. I think that's really interesting. It's probably connected to Laura Palmer and how she died. I imagine there is a connect. Like, clearly the dad was first of all loves his family. I think that's obvious from the one scene in Missing Pieces that I watched. I did thought that there's that one scene in Missing Pieces where Leland Palmer comes home and he like it's played off like a horror movie. Laura is hiding in the bushes because she's sneaking out, and her dad is like looking around. Like, I guess her dad notices something is going on. It's played out like a horror movie, and I thought that was interesting. I thought it was a little too dramatic for Laura sneaking out of the house. Like, I kind of get what they were going for, but I thought it was like it really painted Leland as like a creepy dude. And like from the scenes that I watched of Leland up until that point, like Leland only struck me as like a caring dad who cares about his family, who is maybe working a little too hard, like away from home, but he's providing for his family kind of deal, right? A little bit of an absent father, but still cares about his family. And so it's like to see the progression of like his serious nature of that one scene to Leland Palmer is a murderer is like I'm interested to see how that plays out. I'm very curious.
Who do you think he murdered and how do you think it happened? Like, do you think he went after Laura Palmer's murderer and then got himself and that's how he died and it's like this? Or like, do you think like, it's unrelated and snap from grief? What do you think that is?
I do think Leland went on a revenge kind of spree. I think that he did it recklessly. Whatever that may be, I think it was reckless. Part of me thinks that it has to do with Leo and why Leo is like, not in the greatest mental state.
But we do know Leo was shot by Hank. We know that from the very first episode.
Yes, I do. I know that. Okay. But like, I do think that Leland Palmer plays a hand in that.
Oh, okay.
I do.
Cool.
Because Leland works at the lodge with Ben Horn. Like, they talk about the Norwegians, and the Norwegians are the ones that stayed at the lodge where Ben Horn owns, and Hank also works there. And so there is some sort of plot there, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Of what is going on between Leland, Hank, Ben Horn, and I guess Catherine at some point. Like, there is a plot where something happens, somehow Leo is involved and gets shot by Hank, and like there is something there that I'm missing, basically, is what I'm thinking.
Gotcha.
There's a plot there that I don't know anything of, so that's where I'm getting at, is that.
Yeah.
I do think they're all connected in some way. And then at the end of it, it turns out that Hank wants to work for Jean Reno, which I think that's established in an episode that we've already watched.
Yep.
And then Ben Horn is making shadow puppets. That is the start of
the lead into that scene is really a good like the lead into that scene is such a good emotional like scene, and then he gets all this other stuff added onto it that piles on, that like while it is a separate conversation, it almost feels like a separate tonal shift, like really leads into like the established emotional thing by the end there, of like, oh, this is a guy who's really hitting rock bottom, and is still getting it piled on him. So yeah, great scene. How'd you feel about him hitting rock bottom and this entire scene with the context that you have?
Yeah, I think it makes sense that, like Catherine is winning. Like, stay winning, Catherine. She is winning this war.
Yes.
And so I think it's interesting. It's such a shame that his mental decline is in one of the worst scenes I've watched in this show. But it makes sense. Like, the lead up makes sense. It's just like, it sucks that is how they play it out.
Then it pivots to being Confederate, and you're like, this shouldn't be what this led to.
Yeah, this should not. The tone is all wrong.
Yeah,
yes,
especially
exactly.
with this build up.
The tone is off.
But it does lead into the interesting idea of like how truthful you think he's being about his new side, or if he's fighting back against Catherine, right? In post Confederate, like with this context, right?
That's fair. That's
pretty
fair.
Interesting. Let's get to the scene that you otherwise want to talk about. So we'll be skipping some just to make sure we hit it, because you have the deadline, and then we can go back and talk about the other ones if we have time.
Okay. So the other scene, the last scene that I want to talk about is Josie and Catherine.
Yes.
Come on. You work for me. Here. At the house. As
Catherine is such a boss.
You move your things into the servants' quarters.
And like I mentioned this in a previous episode, but Josie is still very much like under Catherine's foot. Like the scene with Harry makes her realize, it's kind of like a not character redemption, but she realizes the error of her ways. Like Andrew died. Thomas Eckert is responsible for Andrew's death, and it's manipulative because she played a heavier hand than what she led on to Harry. It feels like in that scene, and so it's manipulative of Josie. I can see her manipulation there, but at the end of it all, she's still under Catherine's foot, and it does look like Catherine is still punching down on Josie. Like, basically, Mac, I am still waiting for the seductress of Josie to come out and be like this grand villain, essentially, as an equal to Catherine, because it's still, even with this scene, it still seems like Catherine is punching down on Josie. And so I am missing a very big chunk of Josie's character development. So I'm like, I'm waiting. I'm like, I did see that manipulation with Harry there. And I was like, okay, I actually like this of Josie. Like, she is painting herself as the victim to Harry, while still, I can see that manipulative side of her. But that's it. It was like, you gave me the crumb. Where's the cookie? Give me the cookie, because you've been giving me the crumbs, and the crumbs are great and they're delicious. But I want the whole cookie now. Give me the whole cookie, please. And so that's kind of where I'm at with that. I still love Catherine in that scene.
Yes.
I think she very masterfully, clearly is at the this is peak Catherine. She is at the top of her game. Ben Horn is at a mental decline because she won. She has Josie under her foot. Andrew is still alive, and she has it all played out. At the end of this arc, Josie and Thomas die, and she won. She won the war. She is winning. And so I still think Catherine is a masterful villain. I really like that about Catherine.
Yes.
But I want to see who is
it feels like they defanged Josie and she's no longer a threat.
Exactly.
And then you're like,
where
okay, so what's the point?
Exactly. And even with Ben Horn, you would think that she would where is Ben Horn's clearly Ben Horn is a threat to Catherine. And so she has to get rid of him somehow. And so, we see that at the end with the the one episode with the fashion show, and she's like, you know, have you really changed as a person? Like she still questions him. And so like clearly she still sees Ben Horn as a threat. Where is that? Like I haven't seen that of Ben Horn, and I haven't seen that of Josie. And so like I'm waiting. Like clearly this is like the build-up is of Catherine winning, but I want to see that build-up now of like how she so masterfully planned this. I want to see that now. So
that leads into something that I enjoy about this portion of the storyline. Is that like, well, yes, I agree with you because of the way I went about it. First of all, I never trusted Josie at this point, but that's because I experienced more than you. So the entire time they're having that conversation, there's still some tension where it feels like Catherine does have the upper hand and knows what's going on, but Josie will have a plan or something, which we see doesn't really work out. But I think more like crucial to this, or like what I think is really cool is like, there's a lot of times where in stories it'll be like, oh, here's the revelation of the plan that they've had all along, and maybe you can kind of piece that together if you've been paying attention. Bless you. And
thank you.
You know, you can piece together their plan as they've been going along. But here's the revelation and the river and the, you know, flop and see what it really was this entire time. That's fine. I think that works. I like this a lot of like, Andrew comes out and they lay out what their plan is of using Josie as bait to get Thomas, which works. We see them start to manipulate Josie to make the decision she makes to shoot Thomas. We see all of this before it happens. So it's building up this tension of like, is the plan going to work? And then when it does, you're like, we've seen this, we've seen the dominoes falling, which leads to a feeling of if it wasn't for the drawer pull scene, it would have been this like cool feeling of like, oh wow, look at the way they played this, you know? Which I really do enjoy. So I do want to like give props to that part of it. But I fully agree with what you're saying largely, especially in this watch order that I've presented to you. I did feel like I'm talking really fast because I know we're on a timeline, so I'm going to get to the final questions. Real quick, the scenes that we missed, wedding.
It was a wedding.
Milford, the mayor is very funny.
That I do remember. If there be anyone who knows not why this
Harry in the background, like, yeah, he said that with spite.
Right. This little gold digger just wants his money. And his publishing empire, and God knows what all. And look at him. He's got 1 foot in the grave already.
So do you!
I just love his laugh after he says something, too.
All these.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, let's just get a little air, shall we?
It's pretty peculiar, isn't it? Well, this is my opinion that I've expressed.
Why'd they even add the, if anyone... speak now or hold your peace or whatever? Why did they even add that? Like, that's not in regular weddings, right?
In some cultures it is, and if someone does object, then the wedding has to stop.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
If you're gonna ignore it.
Cooper here.
Yeah, right?
Denise. Well, that'd be nice. I'll be right down.
I'd say I want that bathrobe, but I don't wear bathrobes, so like it would be useless.
I like Coop with
I think I just want him.
Yeah.
In that bathrobe.
Remind me to tell you about Agent Bryson.
He's a good comedic force. We have the scene with Cooper and Denise that we talked about earlier.
Yes,
Harry's kind of fun of it.
Yep.
Denise dances with Andy because Andy's very tall, and so they're the only two who can kind of match heights, which is and it's really cute. And
very
Andy's
cute.
into it.
It's very cute.
And I think that's the only other scene that we really missed. I don't think there's a lot to add about that. It's just kind of comforting.
I agree.
Pete's very funny in that. Okay, good. Anything else? Any other scenes that we missed?
The one scene that we missed that I'll point out is the letter from Wyndham Earl.
Yes.
Yeah. I know. Yes, it's interesting, but like I know how that kind of plays out later, and so that's why I want to not want to skip it, but like that is like we've already seen this build up. Like this is more build up on things that we've already seen, and so that's why I'm kind of like, okay, Wyndham
really makes
Earl's
you wonder why they
something.
Structured the show the way they did.
Yeah, exactly. You should watch this in order if you're going to watch this show, is basically what I'm getting at with that scene. And that's all I have to say.
I don't think that's true
it.
because there's plenty of scenes in Haruhi that are like that, but you still shouldn't watch that in order.
That's true. That's true.
But yeah, no, highlighting that scene real quick. I like the mini cassettes. I bought myself a little miniature voice recorder. It doesn't have cassettes.
Yeah.
It is digital. But I've done that to help with my writing and to make sure I keep ideas going.
Okay.
So that's
Very
fun.
nice.
Very inspired by this.
Cute.
It's not as big as I would like it to be. Final thoughts as far as that goes.
Final thoughts.
How much cooler would that be if we didn't see Wyndham Earl, like we keep talking about, of like, don't reveal him, or at least like in these small little spots, right? Like
exactly.
Like, again,
I do
that would
get
be
what you're
sinister
saying.
if we still hadn't. If he doesn't meow at Leo,
yeah.
you know, like, if he shows up in these spots,
Yes, I 100% agree with you. I'm on board with what you said earlier on a previous episode. I'm on board.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wanted to highlight that part. Okay. Real quick. Right now, do you agree with my ranking that this episode was better than season 1, episode 2? If you can go back that far and remember.
Yes, I can go back that far. I do think that it is a better episode than season 1, episode 2. Season 1, episode 2 is very foundational.
Yes.
And not to say that it's bad, but because it's foundational, nothing really happens, right?
Exactly.
Like,
yes.
It's just like laying out the groundwork. And like it does a good job of laying out the groundwork. Like I don't hate the episode.
It's an important episode for establishing what the show's going to be, but that doesn't mean it's as entertaining. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think I personally, in this watch order, in our messed up watch order, I would rank season 1, episode 2 a little bit higher, but that's because I got to see, like, I was like, oh, like, this is where this comes from. Like, it was more revelational to me because I knew it was an earlier episode and it explained a lot of different characters' backstory.
It's the episode where you find out that Yuki is in fact an alien from space in Haruhi, where you're like, oh, okay, this is real. This is happening.
Exactly. So that's why, like, I would personally rank it hard. Like, if I were to rank the episodes of your ranking, this would rank higher than, like, we're getting meta here. This would rank higher than this episode because of that. But I do agree, like, if we were to take a step back and go and review your ranking of why you ranked it that way, I get why you ranked it that way, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
For me, these two are about even because this one feels foundational for what the next part of season 2 is going to be that we've already seen.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. That's fair.
Which is playing with some dynamics. They're both very comfy. They both have humor, but they also have some other stuff in there. I think I am in love with Denise. And so her introduction here and the way they handle it is just, in my opinion, so good. I love it. And so with that one thing, and then like with my newfound appreciation for Nadine, like it just has to edge out to a little bit where it's just like Mike and Nadine, Mike getting stuff to do. That's why it is where it is.
Fair enough.
Final question. What do you think Twin Peaks is about? I mean, this is the same question as always, but again, in context, what do you think this episode is about thematically in context of the way we've seen it so far?
It is setting up, like, I think it's hidden because it's like in the beginning, middle-ish of the episode, but it is setting up the supernatural stuff that we're gonna get into. Like 100%. Like what Twin Peaks is about, it's a murder mystery about supernatural shit. Is what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my what Twin Peaks is about right now.
Gotcha.
So.
And this episode in specific thematically is about setting up the more supernatural aspect of it.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Alrighty. Any final thoughts?
Brush your teeth. I'm gonna say that now.
Yes.
Now
Remember
knowing
to
the
brush your
context
teeth.
of it, remember to brush your teeth. So, yeah.